So after wiping trillions of dollars of capital off the global markets this week, Donald Trump just posted on Truth Social to not panic and to buy the dip. That's right. The president of the United States is telling you guys to buy the dip. Does this mean the worst of the market crash is behind us? I don't know. Is Trump becoming more confident that he's about to get his wish and force Jerome Powell to cut interest rates and fire up the money printers? I want you to listen to the audacity of Trump's tone in this new clip from last night, because it might give us a clue of who's in the driver's seat of this global trade war. Let's check it out, and then we'll talk about it.
Because I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal. I'll do.
I mean, the confidence there, of Trump when he's saying that. I mean, like, it's definitely not calming the fires. And of course, I think we've seen like one of the worst. I was reading this on X earlier. We saw one of the worst. No, this is the worst stock market performance since a presidential election. Is this what he meant by making America great again? Is this what he meant about the start of the golden era? No, but in all seriousness, it's on purpose. Like the reason he's doing this is on purpose. He needs essentially Jerome Powell to change his stance. We're in a QT environment. He needs to change it to a QE environment, so that he can fulfill his agenda. And by the way, I'm not the only one to think this as well. This has just been this has been discussed for many months now. There's been incredible articles by Arthur Hayes, which we've read for you guys live on the show. Joining us today, by the way, everybody, we got Danny Knowles in the house, the host of What Bitcoin Did. I'm extremely excited to talk to him about it during the culture segment. And of course, my legendary co-host, who's always optimistic, Optimus Field. So let's jump into what Bitcoin. I still can't used to say Bitcoin Twitter. Like Bitcoin. It sounds weird saying Bitcoin X. I'm going to continue saying Twitter. X Bitcoin. Like, it sounds weird. Anyways, so what am I talking about? Let's pull up some of these Truth Social posts by President Trump. First one is, he says, quote, "This is a great time to buy." All caps. I could never have imagined in a million years the president saying, "Hey guys, it's a great time to buy." It kind of reminds me of like the 2017, 2018 era of the famous Telegram groups. You know, it just kind of gives me those vibes. Second thing he said is, be cool. He actually posted this morning. He said, be cool. Everything is going to work out well. The USA will be bigger and better than ever before. And this one I find hilarious. The United States has a chance to do something that should have been done decades ago. Don't be weak. Don't be stupid. Don't be a panican. Opti, are you being a panican? A new party based on weak and stupid people. YouTube, that was the president, not me. Be strong, courageous, and patient, and greatness will be the results. And here's another clip. Again, he seems awfully confident.
I'm proud to be the president for the workers, not the outsourcers. The president who stands up for Main Street, not Wall Street, who protects the middle class, not the political class, and who defends America, not trade cheaters all over the globe. They're trade cheaters. They cheated on us. They cheated with tariffs on us.
So
they
again,
took our jobs.
something to keep in mind, right? Is that, and we've seen Treasury Secretary Bassett say this as well. When initially you had legacy media interviewing him, saying like, "Listen, the market is crashing," and he just boldly said, like, "Listen, that sounds like a Mag 7 problem, not a MAGA problem," right? And we have to remember, a lot of Trump's base comes from the middle class that has been absolutely gutted, the last 50 years. And Trump's promise is, listen, we're going to bring back those manufacturing jobs here. And part of his strategy in being able to do that is with these tariffs. But in the meantime, it's causing absolute market mayhem. Markets are melting down everywhere. You saw the S&P chart. It literally looked like it was falling off a cliff. But I would say the good news out of all this is that when all the dust settles, I believe Bitcoin might be the victor. And by the way, I'm not the only one to believe this as well. We had predominant figures from the industry saying this. They're saying, hey, listen, the Fed's not going to have a choice but to turn on the money printer again. We're going to start off with Arthur Hayes. But before we do that, I do want to give a shout out to the live stream. We already have 801 of you guys watching live. And of course, the Rumble audience as well. If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to smash that like button and help us break 100 likes within the first 20 minutes of Simply Bitcoin Live. So first post by Arthur Hayes. We are greenlit for Fed intervention. And Opti, could you describe what this is?
I don't even know what charge this is.
Bro, it's in the Fed interest rate or something like that.
Well,
we were talking about this morning when we were crafting the show.
I don't know this.
Don't leave me out hanging to dry, bro.
I don't know what this exact chart is, but essentially what we've been seeing play out, or at least what the theory is going on around Twitter, whether you're in macro or Bitcoin, is that Trump has been trying to nuke the stock market so that we can get interest rates under control, rather under 4%. It doesn't seem like it's working out exactly as planned. Interest rates have been booming yesterday. The stock market's been dumping. So there is a lot of crazy stuff going out in the markets right now. Interest rates, not even just in America, like in the UK, EU, Japan, China, it is not reacting exactly as planned. So we will be seeing Jay Powell speak later in macro minutes or FOMC minutes. So it's going to be interesting to see if, Jay Powell continues down a strong path. But it does look, and if you have more of these Arthur Hayes tweets, it does look like we are primed for the money printer to come on. So here we go. Yeah.
100%. So, and it's not only Arthur Hayes saying this as well, and I want to get Danny's thoughts. So, this is Arthur Hayes' post from, I believe, this morning or this yesterday. He said, the Fed is on the clock. Shit is breaking down. Stocks down, 10-year down, good. Stocks down, 10 yield up, bad. Market finally realizing that if there are less export dollar earnings, there cannot be treasury buying or stock buying. Game over. We have James Lavish. He says, good morning. As treasury rates rocket higher, I suspect the basis trade is blowing up. So then the question is not if, but when does the Fed step in? We have Vijay Boyapati. He says, when the dust settles, gold and Bitcoin will emerge as the big winners. Neither suffers margin compression from a trade war, and both are ideal reserve assets in a multipolar world. Max Kaiser says, quote, we are witnessing the World War III of trade wars. The winner is Bitcoin. So, I mean, I believe like this is something that we were talking about, before we went on air, just essentially like, the winner after all the dust settles. We don't know how low the price is going to go, is going to be Bitcoin. And I believe I was talking to my dad earlier, and he says, Nico, and he said something very similar to what Kaiser was saying. It's like I believe this is like World War III, not kinetic with tanks and rifles and war, but it's trade war, right? It's in the name, I guess. So anyways, we have Danny Knowles in the house. Danny, what are your thoughts on this, bro? Absolute madness. I think one of the things that you told me, which was absolutely hilarious, is like, you guys voted for this. Danny,
this is all welcome
to the show. Welcome to the show, man. We're happy to have you join us in this crazy kind of market macro environment. What's your take on what's going on?
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show, man. I mean, we all have to be tariff experts now, right? And I think this is like true economic warfare now. The interesting thing to me is that, like, as Bitcoiners, I think we've always been looking for the thing that blows up the fiat Ponzi. And I don't want to jump the gun and say this is it, but this seems really serious. Like, I think this is probably the most serious thing that's happened in kind of macro land in a long time. And one of the things that I do agree with there that VJ said is potentially emerges from this as a winner. Like, when all the decoupling stuff was being talked about last week, like I think that's way too early. Like, Bitcoin is basically a pure play on liquidity right now. You can see that. Like, if you put liquidity over Bitcoin chart, they basically are the same. And I think short-term Bitcoin is probably going to trade like the same way that everything else does. I think while everyone's getting margin called and having to sell shit to cover themselves, like, Bitcoin's going to fall. But when like the dust settles, everything's kind of played out, maybe people do see that Bitcoin's different, and maybe could be like the catalyst to Bitcoin trading more like gold rather than a risk asset.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. Opti, could you pull up that chart? Because Danny, you're not the connection between there's a correlation between global liquidity and the Bitcoin price. I believe Arthur Hayes was saying this as well. But isn't that depressing in a way, Danny? Because like, doesn't that entail that essentially like in order for the number to go up, it requires money printer to go burr?
Well, I mean, maybe it's depressing. Maybe it just shows we're still really early. Like, because at the end of the day, like, we don't trade Bitcoin like it's a risk asset. We're buying this stuff and we're holding it. And I think as Bitcoin gets older and more people are doing that, I think that dynamic is definitely going to change. But for now, like, money printing goes burr, Bitcoin goes up. They start tightening, Bitcoin goes down. And like, that just is what it is. I think it's just part of like the monetization phase of Bitcoin.
Yeah. And what do you believe, Danny? Because you've been in this industry for a long time now. Like, I think a lot of us were kind of expecting Bitcoin to perform, to Bitcoin to be a lot higher right now. And I think a lot, like what I'm getting from I'm just gonna keep saying Bitcoin Twitter. I don't care. All right, just Bitcoin X sounds weird. What I'm the general consensus that I'm getting from Bitcoin Twitter, just like kind of reading everyone's account, is no one has any idea what's happening right now, right? Like
100%.
every single prediction or whatever got it completely 1,000,000% catastrophically wrong. We're completely in uncharted territory. Is the cycle's over, Danny? Like what's going on? I remember watching this episode with on what Bitcoin did, and it was you, Peter, and Checkmatey, and you guys were placing bets, right, for this cycle. And I think the bets that you were placing, like all of you guys are like anticipating like 250K, 300K Bitcoin by the end of this cycle. Like, what is going on, dude? The house is on fire.
I mean, did the cycles ever exist? I don't think the cycles are probably over. I don't think the cycles maybe were driven by the things that people think they are. I think maybe they're liquidity cycles, not halving cycles. And like, I think to your point, like, I think the expectations are the thing that kill us. Like, if you like, the expectations are never right. So, and I'm always way too bullish. I'm bullish to a fault. So like, all you have to do is just stack Bitcoin and chill. But it's interesting on those checkmate bets we put. I can't remember what I said. I think it was maybe like 280K. I mean, it could still happen. It could go higher, it could go lower. Who knows? But like the interesting thing there is, I think Checkmate said 250, and he's really pulled his numbers down now. So he's talking about like 150 now for this cycle. So we'll see. But like the truth is, like off the back of these tariffs, this trade war, like it's basically. Do you remember the thing where people will be like, "What would win in a fight between a tiger and a grizzly bear?" We might be about to find out. Like Trump and Xi are staring each other down. One of them's got to back out, and who's that going to be? I don't know. And if it doesn't, like you say, we're not in kinetic war, but like if no one backs down, who knows what the end of this is? Like say Xi starts selling all their treasuries, the treasury market's fucked. The Fed steps in, they print loads of money. Maybe China then goes and takes Taiwan. Who the fuck knows? Like this is like a really precarious time, and I think the Fed is going to step in. I think last week, if you'd have asked me when this all started, I maybe would have even guessed the Fed would have stepped in already. Things may be settling down. Like it seems like Lutnick's a fool. Like when he came in, I thought he was really smart, but like I don't know if you listened to him on the All In podcast, but he seems like a pure vibes man that just does what he thinks. And now Besant's coming back in and like stepping into these trade negotiations. So that'll be interesting to see what happens here. I think he's going to try and calm everything down, settle the market a bit. But there's two things that I think are very unlikely, and that's Xi stepping down in this negotiation and Trump stepping down. So who knows what happens?
Yeah, man, it's a game of chicken between, two of the most powerful, fearless men. You don't get to those positions, being weak and, not being able to negotiate. So it's going to be really fascinating. And of course, Bitcoin price and just the entire global economy is just a collateral damage, which is just absolutely crazy. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. It seems like Trump still has a tremendous amount of support from his base. As a Bitcoiner, I'm a little bit jaded. The reason is, I think from a regulatory perspective, this has been one of the best cycles. We got Ross freed, end of Operation Choke Point 2.0, repealed SAB 121, so much bullish news. But he did promise us Bitcoin was going to go to the moon in Nashville. This is not the moon, man. This is not the moon.
But one of the theories that I think is almost certainly true, that I don't think is playing out how I expected, was like, I think it's very believable that he wanted to crash equity, save the bond market. Maybe this was a play in that, and it's clearly not happened. I think also like crashing the economy now so we could try and blame it on Biden. very likely that was part of his plan. I think with the news on these tariffs, like I think he's blown that out of the water. Like this is clearly a Trump crash, not a Biden crash. But then the last part of that, which I think he will still try and do, is run it super hot into the midterms in 2026. So I think maybe the cycle just gets pushed back a bit. Maybe it's not like this year that we end up seeing a top. Maybe it's 2026.
That'd be great. I'd be totally about that. But again, for everyone who believes, I don't want to, I don't like talking negatively about specific people, but let's just say a lot of the predictors of certain cycles that get a lot of attention,
Dan Held, we're looking at you.
Let's just say they got it. Everyone got it 100% wrong, right? Like it just completely wrong. People were anticipating, like, I remember the vibes during the inauguration. It's been downhill since Trump launched his meme coin. Like, let's just be real. Like, that's what's happened. Mm-hmm. He launched his meme coin. Bitcoin peaked at 109. It's just been downhill ever since. So yeah, very interesting times all around. I do want to give a shout out to the stream. We had 1,700 of you guys watching live. We just broke 600 live viewers on YouTube alone. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. We just broke 100 likes. Help us break, let's do 200 likes by the time we get to the 30-minute mark. So smash that like button if you guys are enjoying the show. You're listening to Simply Bitcoin Live with Nico, Danny Knowles from What Bitcoin Did, and of course, my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields, in the house. Opti, do you have any opinions, takes, feelings before we move on to the numbers segment?
Yeah, I mean, I think we actually said this before the show, Danny, Nico, and myself. It's like, as Bitcoiners, we've been talking about a scenario such as this. Like, we've all been saying for a long time that at some point, the fiat system dies. And we're still in very uncertain times. But as Danny and I were kind of saying before the show, like, it almost feels like this might be that moment. And I think a lot of us Bitcoiners were kind of expecting this to happen like, 10, 20 years down the line. But if this is, that moment, maybe it's happening in the next 4 to 5 years. Obviously, I don't think it's over, but it does seem like a very significant moment in time. And maybe we're just getting kind of caught up in all the hype right now. And in like 6 months, we'll be like, oh, wasn't it funny when we thought the sovereign debt bubble was going to pop, in the beginning of this year? And here we are, everything's back to normal. But it is very interesting to see what's happening. We are seeing a game of chicken play out right now between the United States and China. And it is going to be very interesting to see who backs down. Obviously, Trump is doubling down, and he's like, we aren't changing these tariffs. We saw him slap 104% tariff on China. Xi seems to be doubling down, and what we're seeing in the bond markets right now, and I'm no macro expert, but as Bitcoiners, like, we have to become experts very quickly on all things financial, and it seems like now we're all tariff macro experts. And anyways, from what I can gather, it seems with what we're seeing in the bond markets right now, there is a huge seller right now. A lot of people are speculating that maybe it's China. Other people, such as like Tom Luongo, are saying maybe it's the UK that are selling U.S. treasuries. So we're seeing something happen in the markets right now. Obviously, we won't know who it is or what it is until a couple of months from now. Obviously, in hindsight, we'll be able to tell what's happening. But in the moment, we can tell that there is something going on in the markets. And obviously, we're seeing what's happening in the stock markets. All the boomers are freaking out there. They're like, my retirement's gone. Us Bitcoiners are like, yeah, well, at least you kind of had a retirement. Here we are just in Bitcoin. But I think the big... What is this?
It's the finance pro in a sweat factory.
Yeah, exactly. Crying about them stonks. I think the biggest signal here, actually, Danny and I, and we were all, I think even on Twitter, we're all kind of laughing about the fact that on Friday, we kind of had this jump of jubilation of saying like, oh, we finally recoupled. And then on Monday, it just absolutely dumped. But I think the real story here is not necessarily Bitcoin decoupling from all of the equity markets or what have you, but that Bitcoin is actually performing very strong in the face of some kind of financial turmoil. The last time Bitcoin kind of faced something like this, Bitcoin dumped harder than all the other equities. Here, it seems to not have been pushed down as low, which I think is just like a credence to how strong the market is right now. You know, Bitcoin's at like 77K. Yes, it's lower than we thought it would be, but in the face of what is going on and all the uncertainty and the rumors and the hype of a bloody Monday, Bitcoin's holding pretty strong. It seems to have maybe bottomed out, and we'll see what happens after. But it does seem like maybe we are, and I hate to use the memes of like, you know, the new golden age or whatever, but I think what we might be seeing is a very strong pivot in macro markets. I know a lot of people that are more Trump friendly are saying that we're seeing a global monetary reset, and then the corporate press and everyone else is saying like, oh, it's the end of markets. But it is very interesting when you kind of bring in the Bitcoin equation into all of this. The Trump administration has gone very pro Bitcoin, and a lot of people could argue pro crypto. But if you guys see what like Beau is saying, Scott Besson is saying, they're seemingly doubling down on Bitcoin right now. And if China is making moves to drop treasuries, what else are they going to go to? Obviously, they don't want U.S. debt. There's a trade war going on right now. Well, it seems like China, if they are dumping treasuries, is probably going to go and acquire as much gold as possible. We know they have been acquiring gold, but the interesting wrinkle here is, what if the U.S. just moves away from gold, goes straight into Bitcoin, and then China just gets left behind once again? Like, this is all the crazy new variables that we're seeing play out right now. And I think it is very interesting that now, we've been saying for a while, Bitcoin has hit the mainstream. We've hit the world stage. Now, obviously, Bitcoin's still like a pimple on the global liquidity macro markets, but it is interesting that there is this escape valve, which is Bitcoin, and the Trump administration is moving seemingly more pro Bitcoin, while other countries are just moving away from U.S. treasuries and maybe going back to gold. So things are getting crazy out there. Obviously, we don't know exactly what Trump was saying to buy what dip exactly, but he just said this is a good time to buy. And as a Bitcoiner, we all know what he means. You got to buy the dip in Bitcoin. This is the best time to be buying Bitcoin in all the face of the macro uncertainty. The only thing to really own is Bitcoin. So, hey, we're taking some journalistic liberties here, and Trump said buy the dip in Bitcoin. Don't buy stonks. Don't buy treasuries. You need to be acquiring Bitcoin. Don't get scared out.
He did
Definitely
say buy the dip.
Treasuries.
He did say buy the dip. He did say buy the dip.
Opti, on that point, like when you're saying like China may be selling treasuries, like they may be. I have no idea. I'm no macro expert either. But
yeah,
my guess is what's actually happening in the treasury market is the basis trades blowing up, like James Lavish said.
Yeah.
Like I think, so that's basically just super leveraged hedge funds operating in the treasury market. And the thing, like the one outcome that I do know from that is the Fed is not going to let the treasury market go no bid. And I think the market has already been pretty squirrely. And so I think the chance of the Fed stepping in the short term are like very high.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the general. I mean, that's good, right? Money printer go burr, number go up, right?
I mean, it's good for us. I don't know if it's good.
Well, actually, that's a funny
good
conversation, because we Nico, I don't mean to cut you off, but we were just in Dallas for BitBlock Boom, and we were talking with Rustin about this, and he's like, if we're so against the money printer going burr, like, why are we kind of excited that the global liquidity is going to pump Bitcoin? And it's like, well, on the one hand, them printing and debasing the currency will probably make society like worse, and everyone's going to be poorer. But on the Bitcoin front, you're like, they're going to pump our bag. So it's not something we want to happen. It's just something we know is going to happen. If they print a bunch of liquidity, whether it's the US or China or, any fiat money printer gets turned on, it's going to make the Bitcoin price go up. But Main Street, everyone that's not in Bitcoin, like their quality of life will probably go down because their purchasing power is going down. So it's not something we want to happen. It's just like, hey, this is how it works out. People are going to get poorer, but if you're in Bitcoin, you will probably get richer. So it's kind of one of those things like, this might not be a good thing, but it pump our bags. I don't know.
Can I just very quickly call absolute bullshit on the Wall Street versus Main Street narrative? Like, can we all agree that this is absolutely just political rhetoric that Trump's using to try and cover his back from this thing that's been incredibly damaging so far to Wall Street? But if this plays out, it's also going to be damaging to Main Street. So people need to stop believing this narrative. It's political rhetoric, and it's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I think it was a good theory in his head. I don't think he expected these market downturns, and I would agree with you. Like this is for Main Street, but again, like if Wall Street takes a big hit, a lot of these companies are going to start firing people, right? Like they're going to have to start, doing layoffs. Like that's not good in general. So yeah, I definitely agree with that outlook. Anyways, guys, we just broke 2,000 live viewers across all platforms. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. On YouTube alone, we have 650 live viewers. And of course, shout out to the hardcore Rumble audience that all they do is make fun of me and Opti. But we love you guys. It's the most hardcore audience. Anyways, smash the like button. Before we get into the numbers segment, I do want to give a shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor, the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. Buy real Bitcoin. Enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin on-chain or via the Lightning Network in Canada and the USA. To get started, you put in your email address and bada bing, bada boom, within 2 to 5 minutes, you get signed up, you get approved, you're ready to buy Bitcoin. And what makes Bitcoin Well different is that it's a completely non-custodial platform. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. If you're a higher net worth individual looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, and you want a white glove service, you want a dedicated Bitcoin representative or advisor, you have to check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. To get signed up, go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC. And again, if every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn Bitcoin Well points. So every time you toss a coin into the wishing well, you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million sats. We're doing it live for you guys right now. First person to scan the QR code has won 210 sats. If you use promo code simplybtc or go to bitcoinwell.com/simply, you get 3 tosses into the Bitcoin wishing well. Absolutely free. So go to bitcoinwell.com/simply today. All right, everybody, let's hit the numbers. We have tons to talk about. We will be right back.
I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stamp Seed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today.
All right, everybody, we are back. You guys could you guys could scan the QR code. Go to stampseed.com today. Use promo code SIMPLY. Get 15% off anything on the store. Store your generational wealth the right way, the correct way. Stamp your seed into titanium. Don't write it down on paper. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $78,290. Block height, 891,662. Sats per dollar, 1,277. Market cap, 1.55 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 7.16%. Percentage issued, 94.51%. Decline from all-time high, negative 28.3%. Almost a 30% dip, 30% discount, depending on how you look at it. And my favorite stat out of all of this, the realized monetary inflation rate of Bitcoin is currently sitting at 0.87%. Even if central banks around the world are able to get it back to that mythological, that very special 2% number that no one could explain why it's 2%, Bitcoin is still way lower, and it continues to go down forever. When me and Opti started covering this, it was at 3%. Could you imagine that? Anyhow, speaking of the orange man, orange coin, and a topic that we always like, it's something that we always talk about on this show in regards to the theme, the Overton window. And for anyone who doesn't know the Overton window, if you guys are new to Simply Bitcoin, if you guys have been tuning into Simply Bitcoin for a long time now, it's the time to take a shot because Nico said Overton window. But if you guys are new, the Overton window is essentially the acceptable window of discourse. And the reason that that's so important is our job as Bitcoiners is really to continue moving that Overton window to the point where, Bitcoin seems, it doesn't seem like this radical idea. Self-custody doesn't seem like this radical idea. But the reason I'm bringing this up is there's been multiple times where President Trump has brought up 1913. 1913 was the year that the Federal Reserve was established in the United States. It was also the year that the federal income tax was implemented. Now, we've heard interviews with Howard Lutnick that a lot of the goal from these tariffs is to seek alternative revenue sources that are not income tax. And we saw Howard Lutnick drop in an interview, basically make the case of like, how amazing would it be so that anyone who is earning up to $150,000 doesn't pay income tax? Now, is this possible? Is this feasible? I don't know. But in terms of moving the Overton window, I think it's definitely moving it in the right direction, at least for the Bitcoin cause. So I'm going to play you guys this clip of the president of the U.S. This has never happened before, really, basically talking about the idea of abolishing the income tax. So let's check it out, and then we shall discuss it.
America is going to be very rich again, and it's going to happen very quickly. It's time for the United States to return to the system that made us richer and more powerful than ever before. Do you know the United States in 1870 to 1913, all tariffs, and that was the richest period in the history of the United States, relatively speaking. In other words, relatively. And they set up the Great Tariff Commission of 1887, and this commission had one function: what to do with all the money that we took in. It was so enormous that they had no idea. It was a blue ribbon committee. It was set up 1887, and what to do with all of the money that we had. And again, Teddy Roosevelt was a beneficiary, because when McKinley was killed, he took over this vast sum of money, and he did all of those national parks and all of the other things. And I'm not knocking him, but he was given a vast amount of money, and that was all made through tariffs. We had no income tax. The income tax came in 1913. As I said in my speech last week, instead of taxing our citizens to enrich foreign nations, we should be tariffing and taxing foreign nations to enrich our citizens.
So, I mean, I have some thoughts here. How has that worked out so far? Like that's my initial thought. Like it doesn't, like, it's a great theory, right? I wasn't around in the 1800s, so I don't know how that was functioning. I don't know how this is working out. Clearly, a lot of things have changed since then. The social safety nets of a lot of these societies have gotten bigger. I know in the UK it's a little bit different, but here in the US it's Medicare and Social Security. So how are they able to be funded by tariffs alone? Trump seems to think so. I think for the average Joe in the US, getting rid of the income tax for people that make up to 150K, I think that would be extremely beneficial. And if you actually look at the statistics, the majority of the income tax is actually paid by the 1%. It's actually paid by the highest tax bracket already, right? And then, like, if you talk about like proportionate income, right? I think it's incredibly important, because if you're making 150K and let's say you're getting taxed, $30, $40, $50,000 out of that 150K, versus if you're making, $2 million and you get taxed $500 or $750,000, it hurts the person making less money significantly more, because they need all of it, right? So anyways, that's my take on that. I think it'd be awesome. Let's see if he pulls it off. So far, craziest market downturn since the president has been elected. Danny, would love to hear your thoughts on this, man.
I mean, I'm no tax expert, but like, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see income tax abolished. But like, when you're comparing it to the 1800s, I don't know how fair that is, because like, how many people were buying shit from Amazon and Temu and all these places? Like, the US is so reliant on China and the rest of the world for everything they're doing. Like, if you're going to reshore industry, you got to reshore it quick. And like, is he going to reshore industry to the degree that he needs to in the next 4 years to kind of do anything? The truth is, like, Trump seems to follow through on a lot of stuff he says, so I'm not going to fade that. But this is one that I think is probably highly unlikely.
Yeah. I mean, but
I think the world has changed so much from the 1800s. Like, you can't even compare it.
100%. I agree, and it would be nice, but is it feasible? I think that's the question. But I will say it definitely has moved the Overton window in terms of raising awareness about the Federal Reserve and about income taxes in general. And I think just by raising awareness, I think you can go down the rabbit hole of like, are those taxes being used efficiently? Right. Because I think that's a really kind of important discussion to have. Right. And they're not. Right. I think that's what Doge has uncovered. I think most developed modern Western democracies, a lot of that money is wasted, in my opinion.
Yeah. But even like with Doge, we know austerity is massively politically unpopular. Like, I think the vision of Doge to get rid of like corruption in the government is amazing. But how long will that even remain feasible? I don't know. Like, that's something that I think will probably fall by the wayside relatively quickly, because like they had austerity here in the UK for a long time and everyone hated the Conservatives for it. And I think like the truth is people vote for the person that's offering them the most money, and people aren't going to continue to vote for austerity and things like that. And so I don't know. I'd love to see it. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great take. Opti, what's your take on this? Is Trump trying to move the Overton window to eventually end the Federal Reserve? He's definitely saying bluntly, hey guys, make America great again. We're going to get rid of the income tax. What's your take on this, man? Is this bullish? Is this bearish? I mean, I will say that so far, this has not felt very good from a Bitcoiner's perspective. Opti, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously, as any of us Bitcoiners would say, I would love for this to happen. Do I know if it's feasible to happen? I don't think so. I think Danny has a good point of saying, like, look, the end of the 1800s is totally different than where we are now. So we're obviously in a whole new paradigm here. But would I love to see this happen? Yes. Do I know it's possible or feasible? What do I know? Do I know the impacts of that? Like, no idea. But as a citizen, I'd be like, yeah, this sounds great. But I think the main point here, and we've seen Trump double down on saying this the last week, is just talking about 1913 in general. This has been like a Bitcoin talking point for a long, long time. Obviously, it's funny how the first time he said it, he's like, oh, and then something happened in 1913 for some reason that no one on planet Earth understands. And us Bitcoiners like, guys, we know exactly what happened in 1913. Now the fact he's saying that date again, I think is very interesting, because maybe, this is and we're getting everyone drunk on a Wednesday here. Like, this is shifting the Overton window. I'm sure a lot of people out there haven't thought about the date of 1913. They probably don't know the significance of it. But the fact Trump keeps kind of doubling down on that date, I think is opening up like more people to ask, like, why is that date important? We as Bitcoiners have been talking about a few dates in particular. Obviously, 1913, the creation of the Federal Reserve, and then 1971, when Nixon took us off the gold standard. Like, these are very important dates for Bitcoiners because it explains a lot of the things that we're seeing play out right now in the current economic landscape. And so the fact we are still, or rather the fact that Trump is kind of like going down that rabbit hole, and maybe, I hate being the like trust the plan, bro, 5D chess, bro, here. But he is hitting on that date particularly, and I think he's going to continue to do that. Will he eventually get to like where Musk was? The date 1913 isn't important. This is why we got to end the Fed. Like, I doubt that, but I like that he is continuously talking about that date, because now people will be able to connect the dots. 1913, why is this important? Obviously, he's talking about tariffs, but for us Bitcoin, it's like, this is when the Fed was created. This is why the World War II, military machine, industrial military complex is what it is today. And few people understand that. A lot of us Bitcoiners, this is one of our Bibles, like reading The Creature of Jekyll Island. But for the average person, they've never heard how the creation of the Federal Reserve came about, all the different political maneuvering that happened to create the Fed. Is the Fed even federal? Does it even have reserves? Like, these are still like off the cuff Bitcoin, off the reservation talking points that the majority of people don't even talk about. They don't even consider. And here we are. Like, it does seem, being a little favorable, like we are entering this monetary reset that a lot of Bitcoiners have been talking about. And obviously, as a Bitcoiner, I'm like, yeah, like, this is what we need to do. Are we getting that far now where Trump's going to be like, yeah, and the income tax, and the Fed. I highly doubt it. But there was a funny meme. I forget who said it on Twitter. It's like, Trump's been talking about ending capital gains. He just didn't tell us how he's going to do that. Just destroying capital gains in general. So who knows what's going on? What's Musk always says, like the most likeliest outcome is the funniest outcome. And here we are. Us Bitcoiners are having a blast while markets are freaking out. I was literally telling everyone, I'm like, this is the most fun I've had in Bitcoin in a long time. And it really has nothing to do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's just doing its thing. Markets are blowing up. The boomers are freaking out. The corporate press is attacking Trump. Trump's like, every country's kissing my ass. And I'm like, this is the funniest outcome for us Bitcoiners. We're just chilling. Bitcoin's doing its thing. TikTok next block. And it's just great to see everyone else starting to wake up to, hey, there may be a fundamental problem here. And us Bitcoiners like, yeah, dude, it's the money. It's broken, stupid. Like, it's very simple. It's the simplest outcome ever. There is more debt than dollars in the system. This cannot sustain. This is why we're Bitcoiners in the first place.
Amen.
Yeah, I love the chaos. You got to embrace the chaos. But I think there's one question that I think is worth asking, and I don't know the answer to it, is like, I think Elon Musk probably actually believes in end the Fed. I don't think Trump does. I think the question is, like, does Trump want to end the Fed, or does he want more control over the Fed? Because him and Jerome Powell have been butting heads over and over again. And if Trump did end the Fed to some degree, what comes after that? And is it like, does he want just additional control over the monetary supply, basically?
I think that's it. First of all, it's an amazing point. I think he wants control of the Fed. I think the way he posts the tweet, he's like, I think he's bluntly said this on Truth Social. It's like, why is he not doing this? He's attacking it. I think any president could you imagine the type of power if the president had the ability to hit the print button too? I mean, and I think that would be catastrophic too, because every single president would just use that to like make sure that they win the next election. So yeah, no, I think he definitely wants more control of it. But the reason that Opti and I were theorizing about, Trump potentially wanting to end the Fed was because of one of the speeches that he's made, where essentially he referenced the year 1913 and that something horrific happened, and that no one, like, he jokingly said that, like, no one knew exactly what happened, but like, essentially he alluded to it. And then there was, Elon Musk was campaigning for this election in Wisconsin, and someone bluntly asked him, like, Elon, like, what do you think about the Federal Reserve? And then Elon just like jokingly said, like, and Fed. And he was basically making the case that, like, look, it's tremendously wasteful. And somehow the answer ended up in him pitching Doge, right? So he got asked about the Federal Reserve and he was pitching Doge, right? And if you kind of connect the two, like, the reason I think governments are able to be so wasteful in the first place is because they have the central banks, is because they have these money printers. I think if you took away, if Bitcoiners get what they want and the separation of money and state and et cetera, like, it's going to be very difficult for a government to just, print money out of nowhere. The only way they're able to get revenue is through direct taxation. And you can only increase taxation so much before it just becomes politically unfeasible. It just becomes so unpopular. So, I mean, he's alluding to it, but that's the question. Does he actually want to do that, or does he just want more control of it? I would say he wants more control, in my opinion. That's a lot of power to give up, so anyhow, guys, it's a great show. We got 2,500 of you guys watching live between all platforms. We're at 667 live viewers on YouTube alone. We already blew past 200 likes. Help us reach 300 likes by the time the show ends. You're listening to Simply Bitcoin. I'm your host, Nico. Our special guest today is Danny Knowles from What Bitcoin Did, and of course, my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields. We're going to hit the news segment. We still have a ton to talk about. And then we're going to hit the culture segment. We're going to talk to Danny about what Bitcoin did. He took it over. He's been doing an incredible job. So we still have a ton of content for you guys. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Bitcoin security matters, but managing private keys can sometimes be complicated, especially multi-sig. What if you can secure your Bitcoin without worrying about losing a seed phrase or giving up custody? With Casa, you can completely control your Bitcoin with multi-key security, so even if one key is lost or stolen, your funds stay safe. No single point of failure, no stress. That's what I absolutely love about these guys. They make taking Bitcoin into self-custody incredibly easy with their best in industry user experience through their app. I've been personally recommending Casa for years now to my friends and family because they will get all the benefits of multi-key self-custody security without the hassle of having to learn complicated UI. And if you're thinking of one day passing on your Bitcoin to the next generation, their inheritance plan has you covered. Also, if you're a business looking to add Bitcoin to your treasury, do it the secure way with Casa for Business. To get started, go to casa.io today and get 5% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium with promo code SIMPLY. I want to give a shout out to our partner, CoinKite. If you take your Bitcoin security seriously, you'll need the best Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market to take self-custody. That's where Cold Card comes in. The Cold Card Q is the most advanced Bitcoin signing device ever made. It's got a full keyboard, larger screen, and NFC support, making air-gap signing easier than ever. It's built for power users who want the ultimate security without sacrificing usability. And if you're looking for a battle-tested, uncompromising cold storage, the Cold Card MK4 is your go-to with PSBT signing, an industrial-grade secure element, and USB-C. It's the perfect blend of security and convenience. Both devices are, of course, 100% Bitcoin only, open source, and built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Secure your Bitcoin the right way with the Cold Card Q and the MK4. Head over to coldcard.com today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off anything on the store.
All right, everybody, this is Opti. If you use promo code SIMPLY, you won't get Opti.
Oh, it looks like we lost Nico. It looks like Puerto Rico power outage is out. Get yourself one of these, guys. It's the best. It's the best hardware wallet on the market. Is Nico back? Let's see.
Yeah, sorry, guys. I'm in Puerto Rico. Yeah, guys, go check out. Actually, it's not 5% right now. Puerto Rican internet. I apologize, everybody. It's a little bit spotty. Anyhow, I'm back. Guys, it's actually not 5% today. There's a special deal. If you go to coldcard.com today, you get 20% off everything on the store. So there's a special deal on Cold Cards for today. You don't get 5%. You get 20% off anything on the Cold Card store. So head over to coinkite.com today, Cold Card, get yourself the best Bitcoin wallet in the industry. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. Anyways, let's talk about Sweden. Guys, initially I was going to play you guys the video because they make the announcement. The problem is that like a lot of our listeners or a lot of us people, a lot of you guys listen to us rather than view us on the podcast. And I'm assuming a lot of you guys don't speak Swedish. So this is like the original announcement, but it's in Swedish. So they're basically urging, it has captions and stuff, but Swedish MP urges the country's central bank to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. This is a trend moving among nations. And here's the video of him doing just that. And Swedish sounds really cool. I just don't understand it. But that's the video. Here's the actual headline. Swedish member of parliament, Rickard Norden, has asked, oh my God, what is that? Devon finance minister to diversify foreign currency holdings into Bitcoin. A recent written question submitted to the Swedish Riksdag is sparking renewed debate about how the country manages its foreign exchange holdings. The query posed by members of parliament, Rickard Norden, centers on whether Sweden should consider including BTC in its official foreign exchange reserve. quote, in light of this, I would like to ask Minister of Finance whether she and the government are prepared to consider including Bitcoin in the foreign exchange reserve. I mean, that's pretty cool. But I mean, not surprising also, because again, you have one of the most powerful countries on the face of the planet, economically and militarily, and their government, we saw a Twitter post. I'm sticking to Twitter. I'm doing it. We saw a Twitter post coming out of the White House basically saying that the United States wants to be the Bitcoin capital of the world. So if you're another country and you're looking at what the U.S. is doing, you're like, you kind of have no choice to follow in its footsteps. So yeah, I mean, this isn't surprising at all. We were talking about strategic Bitcoin reserves. That was the topic 2 months ago, a month ago. That was a much more positive topic. I'm getting sick of these tariffs. But it is good news, I guess. But I think that's not where everybody's minds are at. Everybody's minds are at right now is, the market downturn. And yeah, so I want to get Danny's thoughts on this because I'm positive that you've been talking about this on your amazing podcast. What's your take on this, man? Yet another country is talking about, potentially adding Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. And I have a couple questions in regards to this. Do you think that's a good thing? Do you think it's a good thing for nation states to have strategic Bitcoin reserves?
I mean, first of all, I love that you pronounced a typo like it was a Swedish word.
Wait, what did I say? Bro,
it was the finance minister, and there was a typo, and you tried to make it a Swedish
Did
word.
I really? Well, if you've never been on
Nico can't read.
if you've never been on Simply, Nico can't read, and I have no shame. I'm originally from Miami, have a very thick Miami accent.
Ask him to say pizza.
It's okay. I say pizza. No shame. But people get the general idea of it. So, Danny, other than me not being able to read, what are your thoughts on the strategic Bitcoin reserve?
Is it a good thing? I don't know if it's a good thing. I really don't know where I fall on this yet. Like I've spoken to people on both sides of the argument. I totally understand the kind of Bitcoiners that think this is separation of money and state, and the state coming in may not be a good thing. I also get the Trojan horse argument, and truthfully, I've not really made my mind up on that. But whether it's a good thing or not might be kind of irrelevant because I think it's an inevitable thing. I think I don't want to say Overton window, but I think the Overton window shifted completely when the US did this. I think there's such an early mover advantage. Like we've seen Saudi do it. Well, not a strategic reserve, but they've been buying Bitcoin derivatives at the very least. And I think this trend is just going to continue. So whether it's a good thing or not, I don't know. Where do you fall on that?
I don't know, man. So from a price perspective, it's, I think, very bullish because if a government is using their ability to just create money out of thin air to buy something that has absolute scarcity, I think the number is going to go up. From a fix the money, fix the world perspective, you actually want individuals holding the majority of the Bitcoin in self-custody. Now, being in Bitcoin for as long as I have, I think it's naive to think that everyone wants to take self-custody. That's just been my experience with people. I've been hammering this point home for so long now. And there's just some people that are just like, you know what? Like, why? Like, I'll buy the ETF. That's okay. Or, get exposure to MicroStrategy, or I could buy Bitcoin and then leave it on the exchange. Why do I need to do this stuff? Right. So that's just been my experience. Now, that is such a divisive topic in the Bitcoin, community where you have Bitcoiners are like, you know what, like that's their problem. So yeah, I mean, my personal opinion is I think it's a generational thing. I think as the future generations, like for example, I had a daughter about a year ago. She's going to grow up Bitcoin natively. So the idea for her to take self-custody and use this internet native money is not crazy at all. But for example, expecting my grandmother or expecting, my parents to just learn. So it's not that they can't do it. It's that the incentive really isn't there. Like they don't really, it's like, Nico, like I get that it's important. I understand. But like I got my Charles Schwab account. I got my stocks. My life is fine. Like, why are you adding this extra complexity onto me? Like, leave me alone, right? So I think it's a multi-generational thing. So I know I rambled a little bit and I got sidetracked, but to answer your original question, from a price perspective, I think it's positive. But from a fix the money, fix the world, I might think it's negative because you don't want that much Bitcoin custodied, specifically with governments. And if you take a look at like what all the ETFs are doing, Danny, like the vast majority of the ETFs are custodying their Bitcoin with Coinbase, and then Michael Saylor is custodying his Bitcoin with Coinbase. So we have to trust, this is the whole thing that Bitcoin fixed in the first place. We have to trust that Coinbase isn't rehypothecating. We have to trust that they are actually holding the Bitcoin and selling the Bitcoin that they say they're doing. And it's like, trust me, bro. Right. So yeah, man. I don't know. Opti, what do you think? Is this bullish? Is this negative?
Well, before I answer that, we have some big breaking news right now. Dennis Porter, big breaking live on the show. Bitcoin is pumping. It just hit 81K. It looks like all markets are pumping because essentially Trump seemed to have lost the chicken game. He says, I've authorized a 90-day pause on the tariffs. So yeah, I don't know. We're looking at this live. It says,
let's read it.
I'll read the whole thing. All right. So based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world's markets, I am hereby raising the tariff charge to China by the United States of America to 125% effective immediately. It's a weird start to this tweet. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the USA and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Conversely, and based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the United States, including the Departments of Commerce, Treasury, and the USTR, to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to trade barriers, tariffs, currency manipulation, and non-monetary tariffs, and that these countries have not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the United States, I have authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%, also effective immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And it looks like Bitcoin is pumping. It looks like NASDAQ, QQQ are pumping, and 10-year bond yields are dumping right now. So yeah, crazy stuff happening live. Everyone's wondering what is going on. I don't know. Maybe we'll see an Omega candle. Okay, so there's that. That just happened right as we're live. What was the question?
Let's pivot the conversation to that because I feel like that's really the breaking news here. Yeah, I mean, is it over? Is it done?
I mean, that seems like it's Trump backing off while saving face because he's not backing off China.
Yeah, right.
Like that's the kind of most. So I don't know if he's lost the game of chicken yet.
Well, he's still playing it with China.
But it's
everyone else, it's like we're lowering it for everyone else. But China, you're still on the board.
Yeah, I mean that's the art of the deal right there because it's interesting what he did, right? It's like, look, everyone else, now we're cool, but China, no, F you, we're gonna double down. And then that makes China look like the boogeyman. It's really interesting what's happening. But like we're kind of stuck.
I also wonder if there's sorry, Nico. I also wonder if there's something else in this. Like obviously Besant has just come into these negotiations. I think he's a little bit more rational than Lutnick. And I wonder if this is kind of a way of trying to get the other world on board, allies on board with pressuring China. I wonder if this is really him stepping up the game of chicken with China.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, he did raise the stakes. What was it before? It was 104, and now
it started 34, then it went to 50, then it went to 104 yesterday, and now it's at 125.
125, and then China. And then, have you seen the embassy of China on Twitter? Like they've been just like tagging at Donald Trump. Yeah, this is crazy. But at the same time, it's a little bit bittersweet because does that mean money printer ain't going to go burr?
Oh, he'll still go burr. It's just when.
Yeah, that's true. Anyways, guys, I forgot we were talking about before, but I think it's time to get to the culture segment. Do want to give a shout out to the live stream. We're at 2,800 live viewers between YouTube and X. And of course, shout out to the Rumble audience as well. If you guys are enjoying today's show, make sure to smash that like button. We're on the verge of breaking 700 live viewers on YouTube, and we hit our goal of almost 300 likes. So I'm going to raise it up. Help us break 350 likes by the time the show ends. Smash that like button if you guys are enjoying Simply Bitcoin Live. Today we have Danny Knowles from What Bitcoin Did, and we're going to be talking to him during the culture segment. We will be right back. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com.
Need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin? For more than 6 years now, Ledn has been the trusted choice for Bitcoin-backed lending with transparency, security, and trust at their core. I absolutely love these guys, and I personally have not only an account with them, but also a loan. And some of the key features that I love about Ledn is the fact that there are no monthly payments. You pay at the end of the term. You also have the ability to roll over the loan as well, and you can pay it back whenever you want. Essentially what they do is that they help their clients unlock the liquidity of their BTC, allowing you to hodl while still accessing the wealth of your Bitcoin. They've been battle tested with their focus on transparency, security, and trust, allowing them to build a proven track record of client success and security, helping tens of thousands of clients harness the value of their digital assets with confidence and peace of mind. Learn more about what your BTC can do for you. Check out ledn.io today.
All right, everybody, we are back. It's truly an honor to have Danny Knowles from the What Bitcoin Did. Recently took it over at like the most popular podcast in Bitcoin. You got how long? It was like around for like 8 years, and I was so thrilled to find out that it came back and that Danny was becoming the host. And essentially, I've been chasing Danny for like the last couple months. I was like, dude, you have to come on the show. So it's just an honor to have him on today. And I just have so many questions, which I want to ask live if I can. So yeah, man, like, first of all, congratulations. That's massive. That's huge.
Thank you.
How do you feel? Are you happy? How does it feel being the host? You're in the co-host seat for a while. So how has that, like, how has it been?
I mean, I'm loving it, man. We couldn't end the show without having Nico on. We've got to have you on at some point. But no, it's been great. Like everyone always thinks that this was like some kind of master plan, that when we closed What Bitcoin Did down, that I was going to take it over. And that was honestly never the goal of this. When Pete was kind of done with it and he wanted to move on, there's a few reasons. Like mainly he needed to be back in Bedford. Like he's doing so much stuff here. The football club's doing amazing. He wanted to stop the travel. So he obviously started his new podcast, which is like crushing. He's doing amazing. And initially I was going to move across and continue doing that. I did the first few shows with him. But I wasn't done with the Bitcoin side of things. Like Pete loves the political stuff. I'm not as interested in it. So it was just, there was like a fork in the road really. And honestly, I'm loving it. Like I was saying to you before we started this show, there's a lot of work. Like it takes a lot of work to put these, like, you know this better than anyone, but it's not a real job. Like it's, I'm so lucky to be doing what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm loving it.
No, that's great to hear, man. And you're doing an incredible job too. And I know that initially you started with doing remote interviews, and now you've started to do more kind of in person. So, and I think a lot of people, like the Bitcoin community, they really valued that. They miss those. So, and you're telling us that they are coming back. So can you hint to some episodes that you're really looking forward to that are going to be dropping in the next couple of weeks or so?
Yeah, like when we were doing it before, we were almost entirely in person. We did the odd remote show, but it was like 99% in person. And because this ended up being like a pretty last minute decision, I started off doing everything remote. And you lose something. Like I think the balance for me will probably not be all in person, but I'm going to try and get to like 70-80% in person, because there's just something better about sitting across the table from someone rather than doing it over Zoom or whatever. So like I was in Austin recently, did a few there. I was in Sydney last week, and then got a couple in London yesterday. So I recorded with this is actually interesting, because I'd like your take on this as well. Do you think we've got to the point where Bitcoin podcast, Bitcoin content has too much assumed knowledge to be like accessible to outside people? Because that's really where I was at with it. Like, we've done beginner shows in the past, and truthfully, as the person making those beginner shows, they're boring. Like, I don't want to sit across the table from someone and be like, why does 21 million matter? Like, that's not interesting to me. So I recorded with Joe Bryan. I don't know if you know him, but he did a video called "What's the Problem" recently. It like blew up. It did really well. And so he really like went back to the start, started talking about the problem rather than the solution, didn't really mention Bitcoin in it, and went through it sort of step by step for like in a very accessible way. So I recorded with him in London yesterday, and that was a show that I thought was really good, really important. And like now more than ever, like with everything blowing up, like the importance of Bitcoin, we need to get this to more people. Like, it can't all be super high level, like massive barrier to entry. We need to make this more accessible. So it's not like I'm going to do loads of shows like that, but I think doing the odd one is very important. So that's one.
Yeah, cool. I mean, that's a great point, right? So like, it's kind of like, where are you in the funnel? Are you top of funnel? Are you kind of like midway through? And
that's the thing. Like, so people always said what Bitcoin did was like a top of the funnel show, and I think probably when it started, because Pete was relatively new to Bitcoin, and it probably was that like top of the funnel podcast. But as time goes on, like, you can't just always have the same conversation. Once you learn something, you can't just constantly ask the same question. So I feel like it has moved down the funnel. And it's not like I'm pushing it to get back to the top, but I just think doing the odd show that is top of the funnel is really important. Otherwise, like, so my sister gave me some feedback on this. She was like, I've tried to listen to the podcast, but I just can't. So I wanted to make a show that I can then send to her or send to other like friends and family. Like, I think that's really important.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm guys, we're doing this live. I'll try to fix the resolution live. Give me a second. But before, so to answer your point, Danny, yeah, it's an interesting predicament, because it's kind of like I think part of making content, you want to be authentic when you're having the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that I think we've been in Bitcoin a couple of years now, right? So obviously, like, what is Bitcoin is like, if you spend a couple of years down the rabbit hole, it's like, you don't really need to ask that question anymore. Now you're more interested in, and the more time you spend down the rabbit hole, it's like, what are the geopolitical implications of Bitcoin adoption? What is what's happening? How are Bitcoin entrepreneurs really solving the scaling issue, which I think is a big issue. So you have like these questions that if you're just getting into Bitcoin, you're like, wait a second, Bitcoin has a scaling issue. Like, it kind of like scares you away. So yeah, I mean, it's different. Me and Opti were actually talking about this earlier, Danny. I think just more Bitcoin podcasts, because like, if you start podcasting today, you're gonna go through that whole experience of, okay, what is this thing? What's going on? What's the consequence? And I think once you start to learn the fundamentals, I think that's when you start going down the funnel. You're like, okay, let me look at these other shows that have either they're more consistent, they're just more, they're daily, or they get those like very high profile guests on a regular basis. So I would say the answer to that question is like more Bitcoin podcasts that serve that specific need of that Bitcoiner that's just getting in, that's just a month or two in, going down the rabbit hole. I don't know if that makes sense. When I was getting into the industry, there was no Bitcoin only media. Like, it was you guys, but you guys are just starting out as well. When I was consuming content back in 2016, 2017, I was watching Andreas Antonopoulos videos on repeat.
Same.
I would listen to his lectures over and over and over and over again. There was nothing else. There was no podcast. TFTC was just starting. You guys were just starting. Like, everything was very raw. Production did not exist. Like, the concept of production quality was alien, right? So like, the Bitcoin media landscape really has matured, I would say, in the last 4 years. Before that, it was just starting out. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's my take.
No, that makes total sense. And I did the same thing. Like I just listened to Andreas over and over and over again. And it's kind of like the nature of the beast of YouTube is that it pushes new content. So like, and again, you'll see this when you put out a show, it'll do amazing for like a week. And then it kind of just does nothing for eternity. And so even if you make those like Bitcoin beginner guides type shows, they just get lost in the back catalog and no one ever goes back to them anyway. So yeah, I don't know the answer to that. But basically my point is like, I don't feel like retail is coming in now in the same way that it was when I got into Bitcoin. I don't know if that's because there's a higher barrier to entry, or I don't know if it's like unit bias, like Bitcoin seems too expensive for people. People would rather be nihilists and go punt on meme coins. I don't know the answer to that. But what I did want to do is make sure there is a show that is a little bit accessible. But like, I'm definitely not going back to the very top of the funnel. That's boring.
Yeah, I mean, I joke that the reason retail isn't back is just because everyone's poorer now than they were in 2017. So that's why they don't have money.
I was poor in 2016 when I got in there.
Yeah, no, I think just to kind of add to your guys' point, I think it's a combination of things, right? So like when okay, so 2017, right? If you look at the Google Trends, we haven't surpassed that amount of searches since that time. The 2021 bull market, which I think was cut short because of the China mining ban, we didn't get as much search is on Bitcoin since 2017. And this cycle, even worse than 2017. So like that influx of the average Joe asking about Bitcoin, we haven't had that since back then. It's been 9 years. So, and then the question is like, why is that the case? I mean, could it be the diminishing returns? Could it be what you said about the unit bias? Because the unit bias is real. Like most people, and this is maybe this is dark, maybe however which way you want to interpret this, most people don't have $81,000 lying around. Like most people will not be able to buy one full Bitcoin. Back in the 2016, 2017 era, when it was in the 1K to 2K to 3K to 5K region, it's still a lot of money, but it was a lot more accessible to the average Joe, to the everyday person, to become a whole coiner, than it is today. I think American HODL's goal, he's like, make sure you get to 6.15 or whatever for eternal riches and the other thing. So, the other thing that I can't say, but maybe that's it. But Danny, I agree with you, and that's what we've done here at Simply too. Like we're just authentically ourselves, because I think it would be inauthentic for you to be someone that you're not, to make your content like more beginner friendly. You got to do what your heart tells you to do, or else this will feel like a job very quickly.
Yeah. And I'm totally in that like honeymoon phase of it, where I've only been doing this for a few months. It doesn't feel like a job. I'm sure like the travel's the hard thing. And that's why going in person is definitely trickier. Like I've got a family. I don't want to be away from them every 6 weeks, but at the same time, like it's so fun being away, hanging out with your friends, chatting over a table. And like, that's what I call a job. Like that's pretty lucky.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, Danny, I asked you this before the show, but I'm going to ask you this again just for the lulz on the show. Did Peter trade the top on Bitcoin podcasting, and or did you buy the bottom of Bitcoin podcasting? What's your thoughts on this?
I mean, maybe he did. I don't know. Like the truth is, like, I'm with Nico here. I think we need more Bitcoin podcasts, not less. Maybe he sold. I think you made this joke. Maybe he sold the local top, but yeah, I don't think Bitcoin podcasts are over. It's like one of the critiques of Bitcoin podcasts that people always say is like, when Bitcoin becomes like globally adopted, no one's going to care about Bitcoin podcasts. It's like, dude, have you seen how many macro podcasts there are? Like people who think that aren't dollar podcasts, they're fucking are. Like, and so I think maybe the kind of very niche culty Bitcoin podcast, which I think we are probably a part of, maybe they don't get to like global scale where like, and maybe the biggest Bitcoin podcast in the world become people like, I don't know, Jake Paul. Like at some point, Bitcoin's going to touch everyone. And I don't know if that's a future I want to see, but it's a future I could see.
Yeah. We were talking about this earlier too, Danny. Like, I think and that's the the narrative that I've heard from a lot of people too, which is like what are you going to do when this thing is like mainstream? And the phenomenon that I've noticed is that, like, okay, let's say you use dollars as your or the British pound, to kind of exchange and stuff. You don't like, it's not really like a lifestyle, like you're not really like, oh, I've adopted the pound lifestyle, or I've adopted the dollar lifestyle. Like, I'm a dollar maxi. There's something about Bitcoin that I think is like it all right, I'm gonna say it. I don't care. It's a cult. Like, it kind of is. Like, like, it's not normal for you to kind of wake up every day and log into Bitcoin Twitter, or, like, for example, a lot of the OGs, they still go to the conferences. They have no necessity to go to those conferences, but they still love Bitcoin. They still love the movement. They're still getting up and they're still talking about it. I'm sure that there's a lot of them that just disappeared off the face of the planet, but there's a lot of them that have stuck around. So there's something like deeper about Bitcoin that makes it what I believe some type of new age political movement. I think Bitcoiners really do believe in this concept of fix the money, fix the world. I think the separation of money and state, that is inherently political. And when I mean political, I don't mean modern politics where it's like, there's two parties and they're voting for this and this and that. It's kind of like the sovereign individual theory of politics, right? Where, the world becomes so decentralized, and the information technologies essentially make modern politics irrelevant. And you have like this new age of what politics are. And I don't think we're there yet, but I think we're seeing like little, these little city states around the world that you can see kind of where the future is heading. Like, for example, like Dubai, what's happening in El Salvador. Like, it's very interesting. Like, we've never seen that type of phenomenon before, right? And Opti's going to kill me when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't think it's a coincidence that the most popular president in the Americas, Nayib Bukele, which is controversial to some, also happened to be the first president that made Bitcoin legal tender. And then I'll add to that and I'll say, I don't think it's a coincidence that the first pro-Bitcoin president was almost assassinated twice, which is President Trump, right? So maybe I'm seeing things and connecting the dots and there's no connection whatsoever. But I am recognizing a pattern. Maybe that pattern isn't connected, but I would love to hear your take on that, Danny.
Well, I will definitely give you my take on that, but I want to know why Opti will kill you.
Because I've said it all the time. I've said it all the time.
Okay, I didn't know if it was because he had issues.
No, he says it like every other day. Like, that's why I troll him.
Okay, well, I might offer a slightly different perspective on Bukele. Like, don't get me wrong, he was dealt a shit hand. He, like, there's the like concept, like, obviously you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet, but I don't know if I can agree with everything that he's doing. Like, I think the Bitcoin thing is amazing. But then IMF coming in, pressuring him to change those rules. I know he's still stacking sats, so maybe that's a misnomer and it doesn't matter. But the thing that I can't get past is the fact that he is imprisoning people because they got tattoos and they've not like actually been charged with crimes. Like, I kind of hold both truths to Bukele. I can think one thing he's done is really good, and I think other things he's done are massively against his population. I didn't know if that's why Opti was going to kill you. I was going to try and agree with him. I forget the question. What was the original point?
The original point is essentially like, I was basically making the case that I think the reason that Bitcoin podcasting wouldn't completely go away is because Bitcoin itself is kind of like this movement. It's a lifestyle. It's a way of thinking.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's the best cult I've ever been in. And like, there's a really... it sounds really cringe, especially if you're not in Bitcoin, but like Bitcoin really does change you. And the time preference thing is talked about all the time. But I think Bitcoin, one of the most powerful things, at least for me, that Bitcoin has given me, aside from just making me richer, is the fact that like it totally changes your habits. Like you go from being just one of the worker bees that's like a consumerist like everyone else. I have been in multiple cults, but this is my favorite. and then like it removes you from consumerism, and I think that's a really, really cool thing.
Yeah, I 100% agree
Hey,
with that.
Danny, your camera went out. Go to your FaceTime. Yeah, there
My
you go.
camera died. Sorry, guys. I'm in a hotel room. I'm in a bit of a janky setup.
No worries.
all good.
So
We've got cheat code coming up.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah,
show
that
cheat
was
code.
gonna say,
absolutely.
let's start plugging your stuff.
100%. But what were you saying? I forgot. Should we move on to cheat code?
Best cold ever.
Oh yeah, it's the best call ever. Yes, it is 100%. All right, let's put up the cheat code website. So, Danny, for anyone who doesn't know, what is cheat code?
So cheat code is our conference we put on every year in Bedford. This is the second year. We've got some amazing speakers coming. We've got Preston Pish flying in. Checkmate's here already. We've got Liz Truss, the former Prime Minister of the UK, coming. It's going to be amazing. Like, so we basically take over the town of Bedford. There isn't a single hotel room that isn't taken up by someone coming to the conference. And then we have football day. So we get to all go watch Peter's football team. And the cool thing is, if they win this year, if they win on Saturday, they win the league for the third year in a row, and they'll be only the third team to ever do that, which is fucking cool.
That is super, super cool, man. That's awesome. Okay, so it's in Bedford, England. Name of the conference called Cheat Code. It's April 11th through the 13th. So it's in literally 2 days. So that's awesome. Are you there now?
I have got into Bedford like 2 days ago, so I'm fighting jet lag pretty hard right now. But it's been a crazy few days, but we're nearly ready to go.
Incredible. Well, guys, go check out Cheat Code. Go check out the What Bitcoin Did podcast. Danny took it over. Incredible guest, big fan of his work and all the videos he's dropped so far. And there's going to be many, many to come, more in-person interviews. And it's an honor having him on the show today. Danny, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you so much, guys. That was a lot of fun.
All right. So, guys, before we wrap it up, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor. Of course, we do have the Bitcoin 2025 conference that's coming up in Vegas. Simply Bitcoin will have a booth. It's going to be in the Venetian in Las Vegas, Nevada, May 27th through the 29th. You guys definitely don't want to miss it. I believe it was announced that Beau is going to be there. The crypto AI czar, I think Nick Sa David Sachs. I forget his David Sachs. Thank you, Opti. He's going to be there as well. I think that was just announced today. Don't want to miss it. Use promo code Simply. You get 10% off anything on the Bitcoin. 10% off for the Bitcoin 2025 conference. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. If you guys enjoyed today's live show, make sure to smash that like button. Consider subscribing. Go check out Danny, What Bitcoin Did. I'm your host, Nico. My legendary co-host, Optimus Fields. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care, everybody.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.